when you lose, a little piece of you dies. And you never get that back. And it's so true. Education is changing. And yes, reading, writing, arithmetic are very important. I was a freshman English teacher for the longest time. I'm a film studies teacher now, but it's all about survival. As coaches on the field, the court, wherever we're coaching, those kids want to be there 100%. As a teacher, I got 40% of my class that wants to be there, and then the other 60 are off in the hallways or, they're daydreaming or something like that. But on the field, they want to be there 100%. There's a difference between coach and friend. People want to be friends all the time, and that's not what I do. I will show you that I love you because I care for you, but at the same time know that or tell you that this discipline is also for care. I tell kids all the time, if I get on you, be happy about that because that means I care.
And we're back with another episode of the T. Smith Experience with the Too Skilled to Fail podcast in mind. Today I have Thomas. He is a head coach at Sierra Vista High School here in Las Vegas. He's going to be gracing the podcast today and talking about his podcast and what that's about. And so welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yes, I'm happy to be here. I'm going to say, get out of the heat because it's starting to warm up outside already.
I know already. But you know what? I don't feel like it really got too cold this winter.
Sure. Well, it depends where you're from. Because, people out here, it gets 60 degrees and they're like, I'm freezing. I wear shorts year round, so it doesn't matter to me.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay, no. So I am from the Bay Area, so it gets really cold around the water. Right? But really cold to me is like 30s. Here in Vegas, I've lived here, and it gets down to the 20s. I'm like, oh, no.
See?
I gotta
Baltimore.
go.
Baltimore
I know.
all the way.
This is nothing.
Freezing cold, shorts, Ravens games, tailgate, everything.
Really?
I was just back in December. I think it was like 20 degrees outside, tailgating, beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Love it.
You're a bear.
Love it.
Yeah.
Right, yes.
Okay, but speaking of that, what you're a fan, you're from Baltimore. What is your team?
So it's kind of weird because I am a Ravens fan. Having grown up in Baltimore, I was there when the team came to Baltimore, so diehard Ravens fan. But my dad was on the San Francisco 49ers. So I was born originally in San Francisco, and him and my mother met while he was with the 49ers. I became a fan of the 49ers. Okay. Always have been, always will be, but diehard Ravens fan.
Okay.
The core, yeah.
Okay.
So.
That's a little mixed
It
signal.
is it's a good mix.
But
East and West, and they hardly ever play
mix,
each other.
Yes, there you
so
go.
I'm happy about that.
49ers. I am 49ers by, I say default because I was born there in San Francisco as well. And so if I had to pick a team, that'd be my team.
Yeah, you have
right?
to. If you were born in San Francisco, you have to.
Yeah, I had to pick a team. And that's what I went. And the Raiders, they're a little, I don't know. I'm sorry, Raiders fans. You guys are a little crazy. I couldn't do it.
Actually, you know what? I can't speak bad on the Raiders because they helped us out this week. They do a great job giving back to the community. And so we were able to pick up like a truckload of workout equipment, cleats, shoes, guardian caps. So yeah, shout out to the Raiders. I appreciate that. Not a fan football-wise, but yeah, shout out to them for
do what they're doing. That's amazing.
I'm wearing some Raider stuff underneath this, so, but don't tell my Baltimore people. Please
I
don't
used
do
to be
that.
a cheer coach, and we would take the kids to the Raiders games all the time.
Okay.
I guess and we always get tickets, so that's what it was. They give us free tickets to be able to take the whole cheer team. And so 2 years in a row as their coach, we'd go and take them to the Raiders games. I just felt it was just like that they are diehard fans.
Diehard. I give it to them. Some of the best fans.
Yeah. This was in Oakland. This is pre-Las Vegas.
Very good.
But this is in Oakland. And I definitely I've been to a couple of games here now, and I definitely seen it's a little bit more subdued, which is great.
We're going to see how Pete does. I'm a big Pete Carroll fan, USC, so him coming in, but this isn't an NFL thing. I can talk about football all day, so you got to get me off track because I'll just go football all day. But yeah, it is subdued, but Raiders are Raiders.
Here we are. Well, I mean, we can't really get off football because you are a head coach. You're a head coach here in a high school right now, and so your background, did you play high school football?
I did. So my mother was a single parent. My parents separated when I was 1, so we moved a lot. Like I said, to kind of rewind, I was raised by 3 strong women, and I appreciate that. My mother, my grandmother, and my aunt. My aunt was kind of like a sibling to me because she's only 9 years older than me. So a lot of the time growing up, it was me and her. So yes, I was an only child, but I had her. Did we do some things that we probably shouldn't have done? Absolutely. Growing up in the Bay Area, you get into a little bit of trouble, and that's what it was. So football didn't come in the form right away to me. I heard the stories of my father, and everyone says, oh yeah, you're going to play football, especially when you're 5'10" already in middle school. So yeah, you got to play. So high school was actually my first year playing football. My freshman year, hated it. absolutely hated playing football. I wanted to quit. And then I met my coach, who was my mentor, the most wonderful, caring man I've ever met in my life. He cared more, I can't even say he cared more for us football guys than his own children. He cared for us equally. His children were always at practice, and that sense of family kind of brought that belonging of football to me, and I appreciate that. And then that's how I got into coaching. So I went through my 4 years of high school playing football. I got recruited by a whole bunch of schools, D1 schools on the East Coast, Michigan, Wisconsin, some big ones. But I always wanted to be a Terp. I lived in Maryland long enough, and I wanted to go to the University of Maryland. They didn't recruit me, so I was really heartbroken by that. But that's okay. I ended up going to Maryland and walking on the team. So I made the team. I was good. Now here's the thing. Growing up, my mom was real strict. So I am mixed. My mom's Filipino, and my dad was black. So under her rule, it was her say and her say only. To this day, my mom is 5'6", 130, little Filipino lady. The fear of God lives inside of me with that woman. I'm not afraid of anyone else but that woman. She always used to say, and I'm sure most mothers say it or most parents say it, I brought you into this world. I can certainly take you out. And to this day, I don't test that woman. So, having her strength and then having my coach really, really, really helped with football. But then when I got to Maryland, I didn't have that structure anymore. And Maryland was a free-for-all. It was a good time.
Yeah.
I don't regret any second of it. But I ended up not going to Maryland anymore. Ended up going back home and going to Towson University. And I lived at home for about 6 more months until I moved out on my own. Moving out and going to college is a big thing. And that's a big step. And when you do that and you move back, it's very tough. It's not only tough for you, but it's tough for the parent because my mom had an empty house. She was good with that. Then I came back and it was really rough at first. So I had to move back out. But then that's when I met back up with my coach and I started coaching. So I was around 20 when I started coaching, and I've been doing that ever since. It's been quite the experience. I took a 5-year hiatus from coaching because it really broke my heart when I had to leave a school and I really didn't know what to do with myself. I had lost football, and it's one of those things because, I try to tell my guys now, they're, especially as seniors, they're out there being recruited. And it's great. My main goal is for them to go to college. And whether you play football or not, it doesn't matter to me. You're going to college, you're getting those skills, and you're being a successful person of society after high school. That's what I want you to do. But it was tough because I really wanted to still play, but I just couldn't, and then I found my love in coaching.
You took a break. So you took the well-needed break that you needed to.
It was. It's one of those things when people talk about it, and I found this growing up, because there were, we find moments in our life where there are different parts of where we grow up. From 1 to 18, those were those years. 18 to 25 is a different variation. And then I found 25 to 35 the most challenging. 25 to 35 were a lot of back and forth, really put myself all into football. When I was a head coach back in Baltimore, I found myself just giving all to football and none to myself. I mean, that's what we do as educators. That's what we do as coaches. It's not about me. It's about the kids. So that's what I wanted to do. Unknowingly losing myself in the whole process.
Okay.
So then when football was gone now, not as a player, but now as a coach, which I fell in love with, I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So 5 years, it was truly about finding myself.
What was that process like? Like, what were the steps that you went through? I mean, there was probably some just sadness, some grief over whatever it was.
It was for a good couple of months. The grief was. Because I didn't know what to do. When you work in a job when you work in a job for so long, let's say even 10 years, you forget how to do job interviews. Oh, I got to update my resume. I've got to do these types of things. And I'm like, well, should I get back into this realm that I just got kind of kicked out of? Or should I go and do something else? Because maybe this is where that story ends. I've looked at it now up to this point, having turned 40 last year, every chapter being something different. And up to that point, it was football. And now I had all these pages in this book that were unwritten, and I had no idea what to do. So it was challenging trying to put myself out there and really sitting at home and sitting with myself trying to figure out what I was going to do. Yeah. And it took 5 years.
Yeah. Do you think, though, you talked about it in the terms of chapters, and this is my thought process on it, is that in life, there are going to be chapters and you have no idea what's ahead. Do you feel like you wanted to plan out the chapters and you didn't have control over those chapters? In my mind, I was going to football, I was going to play, I was going to have this full ride scholarship. you. I was going to do this. I was going to do that. Whoa, and now it's stopped. So now I have to figure it out again. For me, I live in that moment, maybe because I'm scared of, I have a fear of failing, setting myself too far ahead and then failing. So I only set myself up enough.
Yeah.
And then if I don't get there, what's my plan B? I'm always talking about my plan B. So the chapters, for me, I really can't even plan them out. I have to go back. I'm rewriting chapters all the time of what I wanted to do or visualize for myself or even my children. So I'm not so heartbroken.
We have to, it's funny you say that. And everyone's story is different. And it's not about rewriting the chapter, but it's just about making the next one better.
Yeah.
Going through life and finding that quote and being a coach, people always say, or people think that we just talk in cliches all the time. I hate it. I absolutely do. But they come out. Mm-hmm. I'm just a coach. It just naturally happens. Mm-hmm. So they just come out. But being the best person that you can today, better than you were yesterday. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm trying to do. And now at that point in my life, yes, I was trying to plan. I was trying to schedule. I was trying to do this. I was trying to do that. That's what I was taught. That's how I grew up. Making sure that there was no misstep along the way looking forward, so that when I got to that point, I was like, yeah, that's already taken care of. Whereas now, it's just living life today. Honestly, that's what it is. And people always ask me, it's like, oh, you're going to stay in Vegas? Are you going to move? Which way is the wind blowing tomorrow?
Yeah.
Now, certainly there are things here in Vegas that I still have left to complete and accomplish, and that's what I want to do. Then at that time, when that chapter's done, then maybe there's a time. But when that time comes, I'll deal with it then. Mm-hmm. What I have to deal with right now is right now. When we're done with this show, leaving out and then going on to the next thing. Yeah. It's actually a gym workout, but
That's
it's
good.
Right. No, it's number 2 of the day. So, but it's one of those things of scheduling, but not scheduling too far ahead. You can't schedule life. No. Life doesn't happen that way. Life, as we say, life is life.
I always say that life is life.
Life is life.
Sometimes it's my desperation for it to stop and slow down on me. I'm like, life is life, and I just need a break or give me a minute.
But you can't.
But we can't. We got to continue on and we got to push forward, but acknowledging it is huge. Acknowledging what you're going through, and it's okay to be sad or mad or angry or tired or feel like you just want to give up. Feel all those things.
That was the hardest thing. I'm a very social person. That's why I was in Baltimore. I know a lot of people. I have a lot of connections. I'm not saying that to be ego driven, but that's who I am. I like being around people. I like being around strangers. I don't mind talking to people all the time, but there was a time when everything got cut off that I had to really sit with myself. And that was the hardest part. I consider myself very, very control-minded. That's who and I'm not a big astrology person, but I am a Taurus, and I'm everything about a Taurus. And that's what it is. We are right 99.9% of the time. I'm not going to argue if I know I'm not right. Okay. It's that simple. If I know I'm not going to be right or I'm not going to win this, you can have it.
I don't know. I know what they say about Aquarius.
I'll let you have it.
I'm just...
It's one of those things. So to then sit down with my own thoughts was rough. Was really rough. And like you said, learning to deal with the bad as well as you deal with the good. Because it happens. It's going to happen. Yeah. I tell my kids that all the time. In a game, something bad is going to happen. Mm-hmm. I would love for us to play all perfect games. It doesn't happen. There's going to be a mistake. But how do you react to that mistake? Absolutely. That's what it is. Absolutely. So, do you freak out? Or do we say, okay, that happened, next play? Yeah, that's how life is. Yeah,
you're in such a great position of leadership, and whether you kind of set out to be a leader or not, I feel like coaching always gives that leadership perspective. You were talking about a coach that you grew up, and you said, until I met my coach, right? And so for some boys, your father wasn't in your life. My son, he actually went through that to where he was actually really close to one of his coaches at one point. But someone who will accept you and take you on, and maybe whether it be a father figure, a mentor figure, whether you accept that, you say that or not, you are that person for probably so many people you don't even know on your teams or the years to come. This is your first year there at the school, but you're in such a position. What does leadership versus mentorship mean to you?
That's a really good question. I start with what you were saying. I do it because someone did it for me. And that was the biggest thing for me, is because someone took the time out of their day to, and when I say focus on me, he focused on everybody. But there was that individual love and relationship that he made that created this person that is almost in his image. It's kind of weird to say that, obviously, but it truly is. Like, I owe that man a big chunk of my life.
Give him a shout out.
Unfortunately, he passed away last July. His name is Eric Weber. He was my head football coach and my weight room teacher at Dundalk High School when I was in high school. Unfortunately, retired when he turned 65. So we were all happy about that. I was already living out here, and then not 6 months later, he was diagnosed with stomach cancer, and it was really aggressive. The nice thing, I was able to get back in July of last year, and I was able to see him one last time. Good. So that was good, and that one hurt. I see people as pillars. Right? The way my life is constructed is it's like a house. You certainly have the foundation of the people who made me who I am, my mother, my grandmother, my aunt, my coach. And then there's certain people who insert themselves in maybe just one or two samples, but they give you just enough to keep you going forward. And then you're able to build off of that. And from those people, it was just this growth of wanting to be the best, at anything that I, and a lot of people will say that, but it was really, my mom pushed that. I followed that. And then my coach was, yes, it is trying about being the best, but are you still better than you were yesterday? Because sometimes we can't reach that. I might not reach my best until I'm 75, and that's okay. But as long as I'm better than yesterday, then I'm perfectly fine with that. Now, as far as leadership and mentorship is concerned, they go hand in hand, obviously. But leadership to me is not only being able to lead, but also being able to guide. Some people say, I like to lead from the front. Some people say I like to lead from the back. Mm-hmm. As a head coach, I tell all my coaches, we just had our meeting, that this is all one thing. Yes, I'm head coach in name only, but everyone's opinion is the same. It's all equally the same. Yes, I might make the final say or the final call in something, but everyone has an opinion on what is going to happen with this situation or this situation. I feel that is leadership. Mm-hmm. That's the way I see leadership and the way that I do leadership. Mm-hmm. We are all equal in this, because if there's one person at top and they're just telling people what to do all the time, I don't want to listen to that.
Why do you need the extra assistance on the team?
I don't. We hire people. I hire coaches because, one, they're good people. That's it. People will say, you got to hire coaches who know football. Well, yeah, but if they're a bad person and they know football, I don't want you. You need to be a good person, not only a good person to other adults, because we have to work with adults all the time, but to these kids. These kids might not get anything at home. They might not get any love. They might not get any care. And the only place that they feel loved is at school. So the last thing they need is someone else coming down on them saying, well, you're not good at this, or you're not good at that. The coming down on them is not necessary. Yes, the discipline is necessary, because my main focus when I got out of education, it was, being on the East Coast and being on the West Coast are two different things, especially, sports and education. Things are done differently, and that's okay. We're going to see how things go when things get returned to the States now. But in that sense, when I moved out here, I saw a need for more of that mentorship, because what was happening is I was finding, especially the schools I started at El Dorado, and then I went to Sunrise, a little more to my demographic, who I am as an African-American male. Kids who might not have that love or receive love, but just not that extra boost. Because parents are doing the best they can. I will give them that. As an educator, I deal with parents all the time, and sometimes they just need help, just as sometimes we need help. And if we can just use each other, that's what helps the whole situation. Yeah. And now this kid, I was thinking about this on the way over. I remember people always made fun of that slogan, it takes a village to raise a child. But
I was going to say that. It takes the village, and the village is the coaches and the teachers and the
parents. You're going to have something that I don't have.
Absolutely.
I have something that you don't have.
And as you know, when you were in high school and junior high school and all that, it's a different subset of people that you want to kind of gravitate to. So at school, your teachers or your peers, your students, you're learning so much from those students. You're learning so much from teachers and coaches, and that's okay. That's what makes us a well-rounded person, individual in itself. I've learned some stuff. I remember there's a stretch that I do that no one else has done this, but a teacher in junior high school taught me this stretch, and I just Miss Hirahara. I never forget her name.
Okay, you remember her name. We always have that teacher.
And my back goes out, and Miss Hirahara stretch, and that's something. And people tell me, chiropractors, like, that's not a good one to do for. I was like, but it helps my back, so I'm gonna do the Miss Hirahara technique. It's just I'm learning from everywhere, and I'm taking notes from everything just to make up who I am. I mean, that's a small one, but just to make up who I am and where I get my learning from. You get your teachings from. So be careful where your kids, who your kids really hang around.
Absolutely.
If you can, up to a point.
On that note too, we talk about. I was having this conversation with a coach because because I also mentor some of my young guys. So a lot of the coaches that I do have are younger than 30. They can range from, I have one as young as 23 all the way to up to my age, 35. So helping them and mentoring them to be good people and better coaches is also a thing. But we were having this conversation because there is that thin line, especially as a coach, right? And you have to be careful because there's a difference between coach and friend. People want to be friends all the time. And that's not what I do. I will show you that I love you because I care for you. But at the same time, know that or tell you that this discipline is also for care. You know, I tell kids all the time, if I get on you, be happy about that because that means I care.
I want you to do better.
That's it. I'm a Maryland guy, and I went to Maryland, so I hate Duke with all my heart. But obviously the March Madness is going on, and Coach K was on the screen, and just do not like it. But he said something, and it stuck with me. And he said, you know, as coaches on the field, the court, wherever we're coaching, those kids want to be there 100%. As a teacher, I got 40% of my class that wants to be there, and then the other 60 are off in the hallways or, you know, they're daydreaming or something like that. But on the field, they want to be there 100%. And that stuck with me because if that's what they want to do, then let's maximize that time, right? Because the field, the court is just an extension of the classroom. You know, we're teaching life lessons out there too, whether people think we're just teaching them how to tackle, how to throw the ball. No, there's a life lesson in everything that I did and I learned from my coach to what I'm now passing down to these kids.
Yeah.
You know, as I said, education is changing. And yes, reading, writing, arithmetic are very important. I was a freshman English teacher for the longest time. I'm a film studies teacher now, but it's all about survival. And moving to Las Vegas, you know, Baltimore, Las Vegas, kind of similar, different, but similar as far as the demographics go in certain areas and how much these kids really do need our help because they need to learn how to survive after high school.
Oh gosh, yes.
All these things disappear.
So much, but it disappears, but the support disappears, but the knowledge and things that you teach them,
correct,
is what stays.
And that's what
it is. That I mean, I'm always thinking about stuff that I learned, you know, along the way as I grew up, little nuggets, and then it pop up and like, oh, I remember this teacher in high school said, or student in high school said this, and this is how it affected me. Oh, and I'm applying it in my 40s. So everything we teach them and then leave them with some good nuggets, some good samples.
It's hard because we have to wade through social media. We have to wade through girlfriends and boyfriends. You know,
you're just an adult, period, and so you don't know.
Right, I'm grandpa.
You don't get it.
I'm grandpa.
You're over 40 now. You don't get it.
To be honest, we have this joke all the time, and I tell my kids, I say, believe it or not, I don't live here. Like, this isn't the only thing I do. Like, I go to the gym and I live in an apartment and I do have a life. So, you know, it's one of those things. But if we can get through all that and it sticks, one thing, that's all I need. I just need one thing to stick.
And that's a cool thing. I mean, for someone, and I'm sure just talking to you already, I know someone down the line is going to, in their 40s, is going to say, this coach, you know, Coach Thomas, I remember this coach, and he said, or he did this, or he was so tough on me, but this is where, and whether it's them talking in front of an audience, telling their wives or wives, spouse, whatever, husbands, they're going to talk about Coach Thomas. I want to lead with that with this next question, is what would you like that to sound like? Someone talking about Coach Thomas, what are they going to be able to say about Coach Thomas?
That's an interesting question. I've never thought about that, but the first thing that comes to my mind is I just really want them to know that I cared. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, I really do care about all my kids, whether you're the best on the team to not the best. I want them to be successful. You know, that helps us in life. You know, that helps the world grow when we're producing these kids who love the world and who love each other. That's all. And, you know, it doesn't need to be, oh, he was the greatest football coach in the world and this and that. I don't care about any of that. I don't care about wins. I don't care about, yes, wins are nice. I don't like to lose. But I care about their well-being. Are they okay? Will they be okay is my biggest thing, you know, and I've encountered kids and I've had kids now pass away, former athletes pass away, had a former teammate pass away, had former athletes, you know, have kids young, to the ones now who have homes and wives and kids and that, but are you okay? They all have my number. And I'm constantly, well, not constantly, you know, as they get older, they start to fade away a little bit, but there will be a month or two that I always get a text. Hey, coach, how you doing? This and that. And that's all I need.
Good.
As long as they're okay, I'm okay.
That's good.
So that's what I care
Yeah,
about.
I like to ask that question because it's one of the things to where if we're thinking about it, we're actually putting into play every day of what we want, you know, our legacy to look like and feel like.
Yeah.
And so I always ask that question.
So it's funny. So there's the tailgate that I go to. I don't want to shout out any businesses back in Baltimore, but the tailgate I always go to, good friend of mine, he's the GM of a restaurant out there. And actually one of the bartenders now is a former athlete of mine. It's always weird because they're older now. I've been coaching since I was 20. So some of those kids that I've had are 25, 30 years old now. But, you know, we do what we can do as adults. But it was interesting this last time I was there, we actually had a conversation while he was working, but it was one of those things because he was telling he was like, yeah, this was my coach. He was so great. Like, he's just the greatest person, like, right in front of me. And I really don't. As much people think like, oh yeah, he loves the limelight, he loves this. I really don't. I don't like when people talk about me, especially when I'm there. It does make me shy. I'm a very shy person, but it was cool to see because then I know that impact was made. But it doesn't end there. So when my legacy ends, as my coach's legacy ended, when mine finally does, someone else has that torch to carry.
Yeah.
And it lives on. And that's the biggest win for me.
Yeah,
So.
that's good. Well, we're going to get into your podcast as well. I know we got a lot into the football, and I'm sure it correlates.
It does.
So we're going to roll it over to your podcast because you have a podcast. I'm happy you're on mine, but you have your own as well.
I do.
And when I first started looking at it, I got, you know, the heads up from our, you know, connection. And I started looking at the podcast, and I'm like interested. And then one of the ones you were like, we're not going to have a podcast today because of something going on in politics or something like that. I was like, but what?
I gotta go back and watch it.
Yeah, it was one of them. You're like, we're not gonna have one today because of something happening with politics. There's much more important things to kind of talk about.
Yes.
That one.
Ooh, I do remember that. COVID quarantine time.
Yeah, and so, but I was into it. I was like interested, and so I want to talk about what your podcast's about, and then. You know, questions I have is always like, what's the motivation behind it? What is the most important thing you want people to know about it?
Yeah, so the first things first, Focus Health and Wellness is my health and wellness company. It's like a baby to me, but a baby who's kind of been placed on the shelf a little bit, but she's still there. She's still there. I still have her. Means dear and very close to my heart. And it drives everything that I do for my own personal life. Focus for me and for anyone is, you know, a time for us to just really hone in on what we're doing. And then the acronym was focusing on creating your own solutions. Because I always felt that everyone, as I've said, everyone's story is different. So everyone's health and wellness journey was going to be different too. You know, far too often I found that trainers, I should say, would train people, but they trained on what they knew and what worked for them. That's not how it works. All of our bodies are different. So I just wanted to find a solution for people to find a fitness program that works for them. I have always been, because I played football, I haven't always been 6'4", but coming out of high school, I was 6'4", 315, playing college football, and then leaving college, I was 6'4", I got up to 330, was my heaviest, and I probably could have been heavier. I just never stayed away from the scale. And I thought I was happy. You know, I was the happy-go-lucky guy who's jolly. You know, as you said, me and my brother share the same smile, so we're always smiling. But I found internally and mentally that wasn't the case. You know, it was all a facade for just kind of covering up who or what was happening in my own life. You know, I didn't grow up with a bad life. My mom took very good care of me. She provided me with things that I needed, not what I wanted. But as I grew up, I found myself really fighting with who I was as a person. And, you know, everyone wanted me to be this football star, so I have to carry this football body. So it was. Torch. But then that chapter ended, and I was like, well, I'm not playing football anymore, so do I really need this body? So it took a couple things in my life to happen, and I'll share this because I tell people this all the time, because this was one of those flows. Before I moved here, so I moved to Las Vegas in 2019. I had kind of a scare. So my father, unfortunately, was an alcoholic and did drugs. And I never thought those things would pass down. My mom was very strict on what I did, even as a teenager, even in college. Like I said, when I moved back and I was already well above the adult age, there were still rules and I couldn't deal with that. So drinking became a thing for me. I was like, this is cool. I was much more jolly. So people love that. Well, how could you not love that? Like, oh, everyone loves this guy. So let's stay with this for a second. And I remember I'd gotten a new gym in Baltimore, or I got a new job in Baltimore when I was trying to find myself, because a lot of it occurred when I left my coaching position and drinking started to pick up. It was like, well, this makes me feel better, so let me do this. And it got to a point, I remember I was down in D.C. one night. I was about 35. Yeah, because it's been 5 years since I moved here. 35, and got extremely, drunk. Drove back home. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning. I had to wake up and go to work. I think I was early that day, so at 8 at the gym. And I worked in sales, so you're there, I got to dress up and all that. And I remember going to the 7-Eleven down the street from my house. I remember parking my car, and then the next thing I remember is waking up at 5:30 a.m. in the morning. I was still in my car, and my car was still running. And I remember I thought to myself, I gotta get home, I need to shower. So I got home, laid back down for a second, tried to get rid of the drunkenness, the hangover, took a shower, went to work. And I remember sitting at work in a gym where I'm helping people try to get better. And I said, I can't do this. Yeah. And that was the birth of it. So then when I moved out here and COVID happened, I couldn't train anymore. And I had gotten all my certification through NASM, and I was a trainer myself. And I always found it easier to help people, but I just couldn't help myself. Right. Practice what you preach. Yeah. I could never do it. So that happened, and I moved out here, and before I moved, I met up with a trainer at the gym, and I said, you know what, let's do this. I want to get ready for a bodybuilding show before I leave Baltimore. We have 6 months. Can I do it? He said, it's going to be tough, but let's do it. So I did it. I didn't do the show because I then had to move across the country, so didn't have finances for it. But I started at 330. I got all the way down to 229. I was like 11% body fat. And then I moved out here, and then all the weight came back. So I told myself, okay, so I was able to figure out the first part, because I know I can do this weight loss and diet and meal plan and all this stuff and workout. I love it. But what was the other part that I was missing? And that was the mental aspect. So when I started the podcast, or videocast, as I should say. Yes, videocast, because people can see us.
You can see it.
I wanted to get on not only trainers, but mental health experts and people of that nature to help people, especially during that time. COVID was a tough time for everybody. It ruined my relationship. But it kind of worked out in the end. But that's besides the point. But it was about still being able to reach those people and talk about the subjects that people really wanted to know about. Because losing weight, yes, for most people, I'm not going to say it's easy, but we can do it. It's the maintaining or the maintenance part afterwards that we have a hard time. Because that's all mental. Yeah. I got the working down part out. Now, how can I fix this up here?
Okay.
So that's where the podcast came from. Plus, I don't mind being on camera, and I liked the whole idea of Instagram Live at the time. I was like, this is really cool, and I can talk to other people.
I haven't even really done much Instagram Live. It's
awesome. It was great because it allows you to do the things you want to do wherever people are at.
Absolutely.
And in the moment.
Yeah.
And it was great.
That's next level. Baby steps for me.
Right.
It's the mental aspect.
This is
I
great.
mentally got to get myself prepared to turn that camera on for whatever reason and then do it like that. So cameras, kind of on like they are right now, fine. It's live.
It's live.
And anything can happen.
Watching,
my shirt.
And you see the numbers.
What's going on?
People are going up,
and
right?
You're paying attention. Too much distraction.
You'll get there.
Okay, Joe, I pop on every once in a while on Facebook Live.
Okay.
That's I don't know. I'm comfortable. It's just a little bit more comfortable. Those are like typically people I know.
Oh, true. Okay.
And where Instagram, I have it open. It's open.
Get it.
So it's a little bit different.
You'll get there.
But I'll get there. I'm working on it. But I think that's really good. One, so you're honest, answer of I was able to work out, however, maintaining it and mentally not being able to kind of stick with it because for whatever reason, you got lazy, you got tired, you got comfortable, and therefore you just let that go, and then therefore the weight comes back.
Always.
Or, and this is weight we're talking about, but you're talking about health and wellness, and I'm sure, I haven't watched all the shows yet, but I'm sure your health and wellness goes into anything else. So mental health, physical health, all those things, and then there's in all different levels. Like mental health health even when it comes to work and a job,
males, females, it's all different for everybody. Working with women who are pregnant or just coming off of pregnancy, that's a lot different than working with someone who wants to bodybuild, right? Their diets are going to be different.
Stress level's different.
Stress level, mental level. I think about all that I do in a single day on a busy day, and then think about it if I had kids. And think to myself, oh my goodness, I think I stress myself out now.
Can you imagine?
If I had kids. So yes, those mental blocks that end up getting in our way, we have to find a way to I hate saying remove, right? Because some of those bad things that have happened to us create who we become.
Yeah.
So we have to kind of remember where we were so we can know where we're going type thing. So not really remove, but kind of just get them out of the way. Use it as an obstacle, but also use it as a jumping off point to what you want to do. People joke about it all the time, but one of the best bodies you can ever get is a revenge body, right?
Ooh, yeah.
Listen, so you break up with someone, you're going hard.
I'm gonna go in head to toe with my revenge body.
But how can I bottle that mental idea of that just drive and just
without having the catalyst, of someone kind of messing with your psyche.
Exactly.
Like how can you put yourself in that position?
You won't find anyone more focused than someone on a revenge tour.
Absolutely. Oh goodness, yeah.
But yeah, so the guests on the show were all different. Fitness for some people is lifting weights. Fitness for others is doing, I always see the bricks, like people doing the brick body classes. Yeah, so they do like steps and they're really dancing, a dance class, Pilates. There's a whole bunch of things. People just love to run.
Yeah.
I was not built to run. So you're going to see me do the stairs and then walk on the treadmill. That's about it.
That's it.
But everyone's fitness is going to be different. So, that's who the guests were. I even had a guest on who talked just about shoes. So if we're out running, I'm going to get a different shoe if I'm running on the street than I am running on the treadmill.
Okay.
That's going to help my feet. It's going to help the support. It might also help my technique. It's not going to hurt my arch. Maybe some people don't have an arch. So there was something like that. I also talked to a good dear friend of mine. Her name is Alex. I call her like my spiritual advisor. And we talk about crystals and those kind of health or aspects, depending on what you believe.
Yeah,
because not everyone believes.
Spiritual wellness actually helps.
It helps. It helps. And, if you can get into it, but again, if that's not your thing, you don't have to go that route.
Everyone has their own journey.
You don't have to go that route.
We put that out there.
Always. So, it was a wide range of people that we talked to, but they're all friends.
Yeah.
And then that's the nice part, because we all do what we do because we love to do it. I love working out. Now I should say that. Before, in high school, my coach would try to get me to lift when I was in class. We would all leave, go into the gym and start playing basketball.
Yeah.
Then he would come out to the gym and like yell, and then we'd all run back in.
Yeah.
It was one of those things. I hated to lift. And now all of a sudden it's obviously there's an adrenaline boost, but for me it's just fuels my
good?
fire. It does, always, constantly.
Good. I like that. So you're coaching now. You've done some other work in your career. You have the podcast going on. What else would you do? This is a podcast that we always talk about, Too Skilled to Fail, and all the different things. You've done a lot. I see you being a speaker and on a huge stage to kind of get people going. 1,000+ people in the audience for
That'd
you
be
to
cool.
kind of talk and I see that already because of your passion and how you are addressing everything you're talking about. You're passionate about it. So I think that's a great insight to have. What would you like to do with this? And I asked you this because it's the same thing with my podcast. I have this podcast. I had someone yesterday who I'm going to start working with just to kind of coach me into making sure I'm doing all the right things and all the different business aspects I'm working on. What are you trying to do with the podcast? And I was like, well, for starters, I started it. I'm in my mind, I'm like, that's a check mark, right? Do I get a point for that? And now it's like, okay, and now what? What would you like to do with all the career paths you have? I mean, retiring out of football coaching probably or never. Podcasts, growing until you are now speaking on stages and audiences. But let's talk about that. What are you looking to do?
So right now in my career, as far as education is concerned, trying to find more leadership roles in that nature, try to help out other teachers. I don't claim to be the best teacher or the best coach or anything like that. But if there's something that, like I said, that I can bring or help you with, maybe public speaking is not something they like to do. As teachers, we perform every day. It might sound weird to say that it's a performance, but I might not be feeling my best that day. But guess what? Kids don't care, and they feed off my energy.
Right.
So finding more leadership positions, a lot of admin that I've worked with want me to get into admin. I do not. I feel like your reach is not as great when you get to that level. More power to them. They deal with a lot more stuff than I deal with, and that's okay. That's why they get paid the way they do. But certainly that, as far as education is concerned, football-wise, has been on my mind heavy. When my coach passed away, like I said, it was tough. It's a little bit easier now. But I saw that man work tirelessly for other people his whole life and only got 1 year of retirement to enjoy it. There were times so what happened was I played for him for all 4 years of high school. I went to Maryland, I came back, and then I coached with him for 10 years, or like 8. And then when I really saw how this worked and I saw how he worked, I was like, that's what I want to do. And I always wanted to be a head coach, like after year 3. And he was like, no, you're not ready. And I used to hate him for that. I was like, what do you mean I'm not ready? I'm ready. After year 4, I'm ready. No, you're not. 5, you're not ready. So then he retired, per se, from coaching. And then I became an offensive coordinator, and then I moved my way up. And so to see him do that and work so hard and not be able to enjoy it really hurt my heart. And I told myself, that is not what I want to do. What I do want to do is build this team up that we currently have into the team that I know it can be, and that's winning a state championship. Now, how many ever we win is up to the coaches and the players, but there's no set number, there's no set years that I have left coaching. I just know when I know it's time to be done, I'll be okay with that decision, because in my mind, I've already come to peace with that. He always used to say, and here's another cliche, after losses, when you lose, a little piece of you dies and you never get that back. And it's so true, whether it's a loss on the field, on the court, or in life. And when I lost him and I lost my grandmother, I'll never get those pieces back. And I don't want to do that for other people who do rely on me or who I do motivate. If I go early because I'm so stressed out coaching or trying to do this or trying to do that, then what's that doing for the people that I am inspiring now? That's just cutting it off from them. So what can I maximize, or what can I do now to maximize my time while I'm here on this earth? And that is one of those things. So when the time comes for me to leave coaching, whether it's 5 years, 2 years, 10 years, I'll know. When that time does come, I do want the podcast to come back. It is coming back. Yes, it is coming back. I've been working on it, being a head coach again, threw my mind into football mode. But now that it's spring break and I've been able to sit down, obviously having conversations with you, and that's all it takes sometimes, right? We talked on the phone and I told you a story about when we went to Atlanta for a school trip. And we got to visit a school and observe the school. I don't know why the word was escaping me, but we got to observe a school. And it wasn't anything in the school where I was like, yeah, this is going to change my life. But it just reignited that fire inside of me that I kind of needed. Like the fire was still there. Yeah. I was still pushing, but it was something that just needed to turn it up a little bit. And that certainly did it. So that is what I want to do, and if it comes into maybe consulting one day or speaking or being I've never thought about being a motivational speaker because the way my brain works, I saw a meme yesterday, which was the best thing ever. There was books and papers laying everywhere. I said, this is how my mind is 100% of the time. But then I added, but I know where everything is.
I do too. Yeah.
That's it. So the way it works, sometimes when I start to speak, because my brain is working so fast, I start to stutter. So obviously speaking, outwards to a lot of people might be rough at first, but certainly something that I would think about doing. But yes, I'm bringing Focus TV back. It will be back probably in a couple weeks. We do have spring ball coming up, so that takes a big part of my time. We practice every day. But, it's reserved for the weekends. And it really was something nice to do. And then also get the feedback. And I'm sure you get this all the time, too. When you have a podcast or video cast and it does touch people, it's immediate. There is instant gratification to that because people will tell you right away how much that meant to them or how much something stuck with them. And that's the best feeling in the world. Because like I said before, whether it's with the kids or with the adults that I help out with or that just work under me, as long as they continue this on, I'm okay with that.
Right.
And that happens with football.
And then it leaves a legacy. It's actually your time stamped, if you will. So time stamped give back to the world, and that someone can kind of go back, leaving that legacy. They can go back and they can hear your voice. They can remember, things they could remember in their mind already because it sticks with them. But now we're actually recording and we're putting it out there for someone across the world,
absolutely,
to be able to have access to you. And so that's what I love about being on the kind of video cast podcast scene, because right now I do feel like I'm too big for just a small town or even a large city.
right.
Personality-wise, like you said, everything is scattered. I have so much that I would love to just get off my chest and kind of put out there in the world in a positive manner, I feel. And so I want to get it off, and I want to be able to have it documented for, if nothing else, for my kids to leave my legacy.
Absolutely. It's funny because we all have names. Right? And I tell people this all the time. When I leave this earth, when we all leave this earth, the only thing that we're leaving with is our name. Mm-hmm. And the worst thing that someone could ever do is sully your name, because that's all you have. So there's this innate fear sometimes that drives me, right? I am my own worst critic. And people always tell me, don't be so hard on yourself. If I wasn't so hard on myself, I probably wouldn't be working as hard as I do.
I agree, but also I feel, and I've heard something about making sure we change that, because if we're constantly hard, not giving ourselves that praise, to me, I don't have the same gratification unless I just sit with myself. And that's what I told you. I sit with it and I appreciate and I thank myself for what I had to go through, what I went through, and
I'm still
it's
learning.
not too bad. You're not too bad. You know what? That's not too. And it's not comparing myself to somebody else, because I would try that. If I compare myself to somebody, I'm like, oh, I'm definitely not that bad. But it really is. You're doing okay. You got this. It's okay.
And then that comes with growth, right?
Yeah.
You work on those things, and sometimes I was gonna laugh because I thought about it. And it's like, sometimes I try to poke people or prod people for a little bit of that, but sometimes we need that from other people, because I'm not going to say never, but I really don't give it to myself. Truly, that's what drives me. There's this innate fear in the back of my head that says, truly, when you leave this earth, what are people going to say when they read your name? Thomas Raybon. And it's one thing for people who don't know you to not say anything, but for people to know you and not say anything is one of those things. Right? Not saying it motivates me to be better, but it does drive me. I've seen a lot of people, and over your travels, my travels, and when we come in contact with people, like we said, there are people who will drop tidbits into your life constantly. And those are the things that you have to pick up. There are also people who will come into your life who will take those tidbits.
Absolutely.
Right? So we do have to find that
make sure
delicate.
To check that cup. Make sure you left something for yourself.
I was, and I will say, and I'll be honest, because that is part of that process, is being honest with myself. I worked for years of my life on probably a 25% cup. Yeah. But I knew nothing else, right? And I did that little thing where people say, I smile because you smile. But please,
it's not believable for me, see?
No. Now,
right.
I know. No, absolutely not. I'm not smiling because you're smiling. I'm smiling because I've told myself, I've made someone smile, then I should be okay with that. Well, no, what did I have to give up to get that smile? You know what I mean? But if I can just give a smile and then someone gives me a smile back, we're good.
Yeah.
Good morning. 5 and 10 rule. I tell my kids this all the time. And I tell the teachers this too, because sometimes adults have problems and we don't know what people are going through, right? We've talked about everyone has their own thing and they're dealing with everything. Kids get in the building at 6:30, school starts at 7, so everyone's already stressed out. But if I am 10 yards within someone, I'm going to gesture, smile, do something. If I get within 5 yards, good morning. How you doing? I'm going to say something. That might change that person's life. That's it. That's all I got to do. I don't have to be your friend.
Right.
Hey, good morning.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah. Will it kill you to say good morning?
Listen,
there are some coworkers, there's a meme about it, that you do want to steal your good morning. You're like, not you.
Well, true,
you don't get my good morning.
But I am that person. I will be the person where I say, hey, good morning, and no response. Okay. Have a great day.
Have a great day.
That's it.
Yeah.
On purpose.
And I talk about that, just growing up in different, I grew up in the Bay Area, but now traveling to the East Coast and to the South and things like that. I actually, not East Coast as much, but the South, I definitely have seen the good mornings and the, just saying hello to a stranger. And I'm like,
absolutely.
Growing up in the Bay Area, that was not the people are just, they will walk right past you and make sure not to give you any eye contact.
Nothing.
But there in the South, they are gonna, good morning.
Good morning.
Have a great day.
And that's what I'm.
How you doing?
Yeah,
and I'm
that's the thing.
Great.
No matter what you're going
it's
through.
Amazing.
You can't be unhappy when someone's happy. right? Or at least when
Just
they're happy,
hospitable.
when
You
they're
don't even
happy
have to
to
be.
you, right? I could be having the worst morning, and if you came in and you said, "Hey, Thomas, good morning,"
Yeah.
what up? No, I could be like, "Hey,
On a good morning.
good morning."
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, or morning.
Just
I will give mornings
morning.
out
Morning.
because it might not be good.
One of those days.
but it's still morning. And I was
It's morning.
awakened, and I have breath in my lungs. That's truly it. Are you happy to be here another day?
Yeah.
Maximize your time as much as you
absolutely.
can.
Okay.
That's it.
Well, listen, if you didn't give anybody any nuggets, you gave them that.
Woo, that's it, man. That's like 15 minutes.
I know. We're at our time, but I already know you and I are going to still connect on some kind of
Absolutely.
basis. My child is not in football or plays football, but we do go to games, so invite us to
And
games.
it's at our place this year. So little do people know, okay? So her daughter is going to Desert Oasis.
A rival.
Which is our
I
rival.
heard.
We play for the bell. So this past year, we beat Desert Oasis. So we still have the bell, and next year we plan on keeping it. So
Okay.
just keep that in mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
I'll
told her.
invite you. We'll set a little VIP section for you.
Perfect.
Maybe a little show from the field.
Yeah, there you go.
Done.
Yeah.
Done.
We are on the field right now, live.
Got it.
And I'll go live on Instagram.
Perfect.
Oh,
That's
bing,
what we're
bing,
doing.
bing.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
You can look out for Thomas. Actually, share your handles because you can look out for him on social media at.
Yes, it's Instagram at Raybones17. Yes, you do have to follow me, and then I have to accept your follow because I am a teacher. So kids find me all the time. You try to hide things, and listen. They can find things.
I would say, but that's the thing, though. If you're a teacher, though, last minute, any teacher, even me, I'm in HR, and so I just had to scrub stuff because I'm like, I was on the beach. So what if I was in the bikini that was thong? And then I'm like, oh, I should probably take that one off.
Right.
So I need to continue to scrub because I keep on, especially being public on Instagram. I find that people are like, oh, that's Tanisha. Let me follow her. I'm like, oh, wait, hold on, let me look at my page first. But putting everything out there that you're
Instagram,
okay with.
I'm okay with it. Raybones17. That's really the only one I have. I don't use Facebook. I'm sorry. And I don't use that.
Well, the kids don't use Facebook these days, so that's how you can hide.
Right. Listen, they still find a way.
Okay. Well, there you go. You can find them there, and then what we'll do is we will continue these conversations offline.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.